Hey, hello, and welcome back, Informers, to a new episode of Deep Analysis. I am super excited to get started with this one. It is a fairly new network that has been established, but it has a lot of really amazing properties to it. I'm really excited to show you what I've learned and kind of take you through a step-by-step on how this network works. So hopefully you'll stick around for the ride. You'll see what you think. It really is a very interesting network, and it should be interesting to see how it continues to grow and to build. I'm the Digital Asset Informer, and this is the Matic Network. So to start off, everybody who has had any experience in the cryptoverse will know that scalability and user experience has been a plague for mainstream adoption. I mean, when you talk about cryptocurrencies, they're not exactly user-friendly. And they're networks that, you're supposed to have these apps that get built on them. A lot of times they're not user-friendly whatsoever, which is hard when you want to be adopted by the mainstream society. An example of scalability, of course, is the bottlenecking in crypto like Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin or hundreds of other ones. But when dApps on these platforms gain popularity, there's obviously going to be a transaction increase, and if the networks aren't able or capable of handling it, then you have these high network load times. This is why a vast majority of what I'm going to call first generation cryptos are struggling to adapt and get to the mass adoption phase. And the Matic network is striving to solve these scalability and usability issues, not just for themselves, but they're actually working while not compromising a decentralization, but leveraging the existing developer community and ecosystem. So the Matic development team chose Ethereum as the first platform to showcase its scalability and is already working on implementing for Ethereum a Coven testnet. Now, unlike other cryptos, Matic's intended purpose is to work as a off or side chain like solution for scaling on existing platforms. So you have the Ethereum network, obviously, that they're going to be using it on, and they're trying to get it so that it's scalable, so you can handle a larger load on Ethereum's network by using their own network as a side chain. Their main focus is also the user experience. They want it to be smoother. They want to provide superior functionality for dApps and users alike, which, for most people, that's what matters most, is ease of use. I've messed around with a few other blockchain networks, including their dApps, and discovered that a lot of them are really clunky. They chug, so to speak, and they're unreliable during the high network times, which isn't exactly a great feature at the moment for many of the blockchains that I've used. And the Matic network's vision is basically to be able to help other blockchains in general, which makes them very unique in this world of crypto. The Matic development team has already built high-quality user experience mobile web browser libraries, which makes it's so content creators and developers can create real-world applications on large scales and know that they're going to work correctly and know that there's going to be an improved user experience. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how their new powers, so to speak, work out for them, because if they are able to implement this on one blockchain and then implement it on another blockchain and implement it on another one, that grows their use. And not only does it grow their use, but it makes them valuable to everybody, whether you're Ethereum, whether you're Bitcoin, whether you're Tron, whether you're XRP. It makes them a valuable product. So it'll be interesting to see how these developers continue to make Matic better. So let's get into basically how Matic solves its slow transaction times A vast majority of blockchains work on the proof of work protocol, or POW. This means that they have proof of work miners that compete against each other to complete a transaction on a network and then get rewarded. The main working principles are, complicated mathematical puzzles that and a possibility to easily prove the solution. So when you work in these problems, if they take a lot of computing power to solve, then it causes increased times with the increased difficulty before a process or a transaction can be completed. But if they're too easy, then you have vulnerabilities in your network. So the Matic network is solving this problem by using high throughput blockchain with consensus provided by a select of block producers. So they're chosen for every checkpoint by a set of stakers. And then they use the proof of stake layer to validate the blocks and to publish periodic proofs. These are also going to be known as Merkel Routes of the blocks produced by the block producers to the Ethereum main chain. So this is helping achieve the high level of decentralization while maintaining an extremely fast, less than 2 seconds block confirmation times. So this increases the network very, very much so, and makes it so that they can have such a higher load. We're going to cover a few different things in this next bit. I'm just going to kind of give a basic rundown on what they are and follow it up with how Matic's network plans to solve these type of issues. So with the low transaction throughput, like I said, they are going to be using a proof of stake layer that will help. Basically, it's going to help them finish the blocks faster, so that way they can increase the time. The Matic's network is using the block producer layer to produce the blocks. The block producer is enabling the system to produce blocks at a fast rate. The system ensures decentralization using the proof of stake checkpoints, which were also called the Merkel Routes, and this enables the Matic's network to theoretically achieve up to 2/16 transactions per second on a single sidechain. Now, the crazy part about this is that they are able to scale on top of themselves. So when you have a chain in place, when you have the Matic's network in place, you are actually able to add additional side chains to increase the amount of transactions that the Matic's chain can process as fast as possible. So when they need more processing power, or when they need more transaction speed, they are literally able to build upon themselves to make this faster, which is pretty impressive. It makes it so that there is almost an infinite amount of usability for this. If you have somebody that needs has a high network load, you can add this in, and it's going to help your network load be reduced and make it so you can do more transactions, which is fantastic. With the rapid growth of our blockchain ecosystems, new crypto assets are increasingly being created. They're being transferred and sold, often involving multiple crypto tokens. Also, most of the decentralized apps tend to have their own tokens or their own economy built off of a blockchain. And the important thing to think about is when you're looking at the blockchains is that there's always going to be a transaction cost for some sort of structure. So, for example, Ethereum charges gas fees on each transition. And with these fees, it's important to have these validators in place to prevent certain kinds of security attacks. However, fees are also very inconvenient, and it's hard to justify sending money when you're losing money, especially when you're losing a high amount of cost in your transaction fees, which Ethereum, Bitcoin, they tend to have the higher transaction fees themselves. So the Matic network is enabling low-cost transactions through achieving economies of scale by doing a large number of transactions on the block producer layer, which ensures the low cost and then subsequently batches the proofs of the Matic blocks using the Merkel route of the blocks to highly decentralize the main chain using a decentralized layer of the point of stake, which this is all to decrease the amount of your transaction fees, because if they're so high that you can't stand it and you can't do anything about it, it doesn't make it very smart for an architect or for a designer to build something on that when they know that their fees are going to be astronomical. And that is a problem when it comes to the developers having networks to work on as well. So the Matic network, as I said before, they are very much wanting to make the apps that are being created on these blockchains, they want them to be successful. They want them to be able to have that mass adoption, that great user experience, that we expect, especially nowadays. When I go and play a video game or get online and play a game, I expect it to be well polished. I expect it to be well done. I expect not to have too much lag, that kind of thing. And that's something that's an issue with a lot of DApps compared to their centralized counterparts. In order to do that, the Matic development team is expected to be working on various mobile and web browser integration tools, and is pioneering protocols in that domain, with the intentions of building mobile browser apps that will act as not only a secured interaction layer for blockchain interactions, but the Matic team is planning on publishing the designs and prototypes of these mobile and web browser tools very soon. And with that, they should be able to start helping with usability for some of these DApps if their developers will use it. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops on the Ethereum network just itself. So now we're going to get into a little bit about the architecture and kind of the main, kind of one of the core focuses of the Matic network, which is all in itself mass user adoption. It is ideal that a deep dive into the Matic network should really be the start of the user's journey. So when a user is transferring, and we're going to use Ethereum for this because this is what they're mainly working on, but when a user is transferring Ethereum or ERC20 tokens on the Ethereum network, they have to wait for the confirmation of the block, which ranges from anywhere between 14 and 20 seconds. Even then, the users have to wait for multiple blocks to be sure of the finality of the transaction, which is kind of a problem if you're going to go and buy coffee, or if you're going to go to a movie. You don't want to be sitting there waiting for a transaction to be validated and be finalized before you can go do whatever you're doing. Which is one of the big issues with mass adoption, but hopefully this is something that's going to help deter and actually make mass adoption more practical. But so on each transaction, not only are you paying a very high fee, but you're waiting for it to be confirmed, and that really serves as a deterrent for users wanting to use a service. And during peak times when a large number of transactions are being made on the Ethereum network, the gas fees on each transaction are not only getting higher because it's having more of a demand for faster confirmations, but with that, you're going to be waiting longer and longer and longer. And the Matic network is proposing a solution to overcome these problems. So here is basically how it will function. A user is going to deposit a cryptographic asset into a Matic contract on the main chain. Currently, it's only implemented with the Ethereum blockchain right now. Once deposited, those tokens get confirmed on the main chain. Tokens will then appear on the Matic chain using a Matic deposit bridge. These users are now able to transfer tokens to anyone they want almost instantly. Now, I want you to think about that. So now, users can transfer tokens to anyone they want almost instantly. So that makes two things. One, makes the fees almost negligible because they're easy to get the finality with things. And Matic Chain is claiming that it will be approximately 1 second or less for the transaction, which means that when I go and buy coffee and I decide to use a ERC20 token or Ethereum in general, then I can walk up, pay for it, and it should be done in less than a few seconds and have the finality behind it so that that business can go on its way and I can go on my way with my product. Whenever the user wishes to, they are also able to withdraw the tokens to the main Ethereum chain by establishing a proof of their remaining tokens on a root contract. So the same method is also going to work for ERC20 tokens or any other crypto asset that's on the Ethereum blockchain. And Matic's team has created a demo version of this, which is very exciting to see. You'll have to go onto github.com/Matic Network /contracts, and that right there will show you a demo version. And right now, with this mainnet, mainnet should be going live really pretty soon. So it should be a really interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see how this works and to see whether it works well enough that users are going to be friendly to it and it's going to start increasing transaction times on the Ethereum network. So it'll be interesting to see. So as I was saying though, so this right here is kind of a picture of the chain. So you have the Ethereum main chain on top, and then you have the point of stake checkpoints, followed by the Merkel Routes, and then you have your block producers. The Matic's network is using a dual strategy of the proof of stake at the checkpointing layer, and then the block producers at the block producer layer, which is supposed to achieve faster block times while ensuring a high degree of decentralization by achieving that finality on the main chains using the checkpoints and the fraud-proof mechanisms. So through this mechanism, the Matic's network is achieving high transaction speeds with a high degree of decentralization and finality on the main chain. So in this first version, which is only Ethereum as the base chain, Ethereum root contracts enforce the solvency and the finality through the header checkpoints very efficiently. So this is basically how the chain is set up, and the Matic system is also able to create multi-chain support, so they can make a support layer to support their own main Matic chain. So by doing that, they basically can make it so that we can have an infinite number of transactions going through and have a very high degree of security, which is absolutely incredible. So the Matic chain also is going to be having a lot of usability type stuff. So right now, one of the things that they are working on is they are working on payment and interfaces for users, which is apps basically that merchants and users can use to instantly accept and pay in a crypto asset. So that also follows back with the ERC20 tokens, and the Matic's development team has a plan to roll out this system in approximately 3 phases. So they're talking about the Ether and the ERC20 token payments, and then eventually they want to get to the point where they can do multi-asset cross-chain transfers and payments through atomic swaps and liquidity providers, and then eventually fiat-enabled off-ramp payment system integration through fiat liquidity providers. So an atomic swap Basically, the Matic contract will allow the user to pay with any crypto of their preference and receive. The receiver will receive payment in the asset that they prefer. So let's go ahead and say, for instance, that let's say that the Matic system's up and working on a bunch of different blockchains. So my preference is, I'd like to use XRP, or I'd like to use Tron, and I want to buy something with it. So I want to buy, let's say, a t-shirt. I'm going to buy a t-shirt with my Tron or my XRP, but the owner of whatever store or whatnot that I'm going through doesn't want that. They want to be paid in Ethereum, or they want to be paid in Bitcoin. Well, so this is supposed to make it so that way I can pay in my XRP and it'll automatically convert it, so that way the owner can get his Bitcoin or Ethereum while I get to use my XRP. And being able to do an atomic swap is really incredible, because if we're able to do that, then there's really no limit on where you can take your digital assets to, which is pretty impressive. The other thing is that these liquidity providers are basically third parties that can use the Matic network to exchange any tokens for any other tokens by leveraging a liquidity pool and other providers while they're transferring crypto assets. So in the case of fiat, the Matic development team is planning to collaborate with fiat liquidity providers in the currencies of those major countries, which is also pretty interesting that they are able to incorporate the fiat currencies of major countries into this, which should be pretty interesting. The Matic network is also expected to have all the characteristics which is an exchange platform should have. So faster and cheaper trades. The Matic network is capable of supporting a decentralized exchange and enabling trustless, reliable, and easy crypto trades. And the decentralized exchange is the future for digital assets and provides great security and solvency than any of the centralized exchanges. So there's a lot of usability that they're already thinking of. They're also thinking of a lending and credit scoring platform. They're also thinking about different ways to work in user-friendly interfaces with identities, which is pretty neat. And they're working with all these different dApps for it. They're also expected to be having games on their network, big games, like being able to have a full-sized game on their network that is going to work because of the number of sidechains they can have. They can have these infinite transactions, which should make things seamlessly, and it'll be really interesting to see how that develops over time. They also currently, right now, they do have a Matic wallet, which the team has made, and it's a mobile app. It's pretty neat how they have gone so far in so little time, and they are really becoming a very successful network. And as a lot of people have seen in the marketplaces and stuff like that, Matic has been on the rise. They've been gaining popularity as they go. The last thing that I really want to point out about this Matic network is that they do have some partners that they're starting to get involved with. The Maker DAO is a entity behind the stablecoin DAI MOU signed for enabling the DAI as the first stablecoin on the Matic network. So currently they're exploring the joint funding of a team to develop a Venmo-style app based on DAI and the Matic network. There is also USDC. Is $1. It's a stable coin, and Matic will be integrating this stable coin on its side chains as an option to be able to pay for their network fees. There is also Coral. Coral is a decentralized protocol that protects consumers from blockchain fraud and brings peace of mind to the blockchain transactions. And the plan is to integrate Coral with the Matic network so that they can flag questionable addresses before a transaction takes place, which this case alone is it gives you a lot of peace of mind if you're somebody that worries about whether or not an address you are sending money to is okay, or whether it should have been flagged prior. So this is a very good partner for Matic's network to have. And then we also have the Repo credit network. Repo is a decentralized global peer-to-peer credit network. And they're going to work together with Matic to help realize micro loans and faster plasma exits by leveraging the Matic side chains. This will be made possible by the extremely cheap transaction costs and the NFT POS features that are offered by the Matic network. So it should be very interesting to see where things go from here, and to see how the Matic network is already well on its way to being very successful, and it is totally unique from its other fellow crypto projects. Its change to be able to enhance the existing networks instead of competing against them really does give them a lot of outreach and appeal to the masses. So no matter what cryptos they are able to support, that should be a benefit for not only the Matic network, but for whatever blockchains that the Matic network incorporates with itself. But that's it for me right now. Thank you so much, everybody, for your support. Thanks for listening to this deep analysis on the Matic network. I hope that you really enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed making it and bringing it into fruition. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share the channel and the videos. That's really the best way that you're able to help me right now and help support the channel. We're up to 31 subs right now. I'd love to see that try and get to 35 or even 40 here in the next week. And I will continue to bring you the newest crypto news that's out, and hopefully we'll do another deep analysis here in a couple weeks. So thank you so much, Informers. I'm your digital asset informer, and this has been a deep analysis on the Matic network. Thanks.